Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry. So, the world has to stay calm, right? You all heard of that app called Calm. I think a lot of people must have it on their phone. Well, we are going to be talking with a gentleman. His name is Peter Freedman, who was one of the people that came up with the marketing idea. So, we're going to be talking with him about that particular book and how Calm whipped up a storm. And this is a good show for Get Out There, Get Known, and also Pam Perry Picks because the book is out on Amazon and you can see the link below. But one of the main things we're going to talk about creative PR, things that I love and adore, and also for authors and speakers. But really, how does someone go viral? Right? How does that happen? So if you're an author or a speaker or someone that is in that space of like, how do I get that PR going 365 days a year? Because that's what you need to do in order to get attention. This show is for you. But before that, I'm going to share a little bit of information about an event that's coming up in October called Speak, Sell, Shine.
Speak, Sell, Shine, an exclusive event in Washington, D.C. Are you ready to turn your expertise into a profitable speaking business that amplifies your influence? I'm Ryan Dorn. Join Dr. Pam Perry and I for the exclusive Speak, Sell, Shine event. Maybe you're a thought leader out there sharing in your local community. Well, now it's time to go big time and get paid to speak. Speak, Sell, Shine. Maybe you've booked some engagements, but you know your wisdom, it warrants so much more. Well, now it's time to unlock the missing piece and get you the gigs that truly reflect your brilliance. Join us for an exclusive 2-day event at the beautiful and historic Howard Theater in Washington, D.C., October 8th and the 9th. We're going to give you the tools to position yourself as a high-value resource and get the speaking gigs you deserve. I'm Emmy Award-winning speaker Ryan Dorn. I'm going to share with you my tips and tricks. I'm booking 40 to 60 gigs a year, and you can too. You're going to leave with a video speaker reel that is high class, polished headshots, branding materials, and only 20 people are going to get this privilege. This is our second annual event. SpeakSellShine.com is the website. Apply to be considered. Turn your brilliance into a lucrative speaking career and get interviewed by the media as well. Meet us all in Washington, D.C. Friends, the time is now. Speak, sell, and shine. The time is now. Apply today.
I am so excited about that. That is about a month away. If you catch it afterwards, go to the website, get on the waiting list. But one of the things this show is going to really talk about, give you some golden nuggets about what are the PR and guerrilla marketing ideas that you can use to really, if you're a startup or if you've been in business or things are just kind of stuck. This guy, Peter Freedman, is a genius at that. So I'm going to bring him up, promise you, right after this.
Welcome to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast. Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy Award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey, and here is Peter as well. Hey, Peter, how are you?
Very well. Thank you for inviting me.
Good, good. So where are you hailing from?
Well, I live in London in the UK, but a very long time ago, I was actually born in Toronto in Canada, but my parents moved here when I was a child.
Okay, all right, all right.
Kind of
So I'm from Michigan, so you're kind of like across the water there, the Canada side, but now you're over in London, though you're overseas. So what time is it there?
It is 8 o'clock in the evening here.
Okay, all right, all right, all right. Good, good, good. So we are international here on the Get Out There, Get Known podcast. So I love the fact that you are in marketing and PR and creative, and you talk about quirky PR and how to really guerrilla. So explain guerrilla marketing for those who don't really know what that term means, or guerrilla PR. Explain what that really means. It's not just standard write a press release, pitch it to a reporter.
Yes, that's right. Well, I say in my book that you mentioned how Calm whipped up a storm, that there are two kinds of PR. And the first kind is the more conventional, straightforward, traditional PR, where you say, hey, look at me, you know, I'm wonderful and what I'm selling is wonderful. And which is the type of PR that is the most common approach that the most people do. And that can be highly effective, and I'd highly recommend it, especially when you have something genuinely new and interesting and different to talk about. But the second approach I talk about is more indirect or non-traditional PR, which has lots of different jargon type names like guerrilla marketing or viral marketing, or one client called what I do silly PR, which I don't know if he meant as a compliment. I think he did, but I took it as a compliment. Or, but I
Or
think of
corny. Maybe corny and silly is kind of the same thing. Sometimes corny works because it just
quirky or
quirky.
silly, yes. So
Yeah.
it's going, and the second approach is more indirect and more under the radar, and it's based on the fact that it's incredibly difficult to get people's attention nowadays because
Yes.
everyone is so overwhelmed by a constant tidal wave of information and marketing messages. So the second approach starts with the question, well, how can we get the attention of our target audience, of our target customer? And one of the ways you can get their attention is by amusing them or making them smile or making them laugh. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of what I'm trying to do, what I did for Com, what I try and do generally. And what I tend to mean by guerrilla marketing or viral marketing or any of the various jargon terms is that if you come up with a clever or funny idea, you get more for your money and you stand better odds and more chance of standing out from the crowd and competing against the insane odds that we all face of trying to get attention. So it's really about, yeah, coming up with a clever idea and trying to amuse people or make people smile. And that's a lot of what I'm trying to do. And once you get their attention, which is a really hard part, then you insinuate your product or your message into the story. You try and make it integral to the story, integral and inescapable. So
That
the
is
idea,
that is really one of the main things is getting attention. And it,
yes,
it reminds me of when I was in college, and I remember this all my entire career is the AIDA, AIDA. And it's just first to get someone's attention, then to get them interested,
yeah,
then to get them to desire, and then to get them to act. I always remember that, and that first one was attention. And from the old days, and you remember this, is like in order to get someone's attention, they used to kind of walk around with sandwich board signs across
yes,
their chest to walk around to say, "Okay, I am here. This is the attention," or a billboard, something that gets the attention.
sure,
But because we have so much information in this internet AI age, how do you get someone's attention? How do you go viral? And what you said, and because you're from Toronto and now living in London, you said about funny. Now, you know, people in the States, what we think is funny and what you guys just think is funny. So how do you find that me when you've got two different types of humor? I
yeah.
should
Well,
say.
there are definitely cultural differences, and you have to think about it carefully. But I
Mhm.
think that we still have a lot in common, and we share a lot of things. And I think a lot of the ideas I try and come up with should appeal not just in the US and the UK, but they're ideas that I hope will spread around the world. There's a lot, the right ideas will spread around the world. Like one of the most successful ideas I did for Calm, which went viral in Bulgaria and Vietnam and Kazakhstan and all kinds of countries where I couldn't even identify the language, let alone understand it, and countries I'd never heard of. What was an idea that I think had universal appeal, and it was when I started working for Com when they were starting to pivot from being just a meditation app, which is how they
Mhm.
started, to
Right.
becoming a meditation and sleep app. They wanted to place increasing focus on sleep as well. Um, so we started by asking, we started from the idea that insomnia is a modern epidemic. So we asked the question, what would be the ultimate cure for insomnia? And the answer we came up with was an 8-hour slow motion movie about sheep standing in a field doing nothing. And so that's what we produced. And it was actually not that long after the success of La La Land, the musical. So we called it Baba
Oh,
Land. And we
okay.
created a poster, which was a kind of affectionate homage or homage to the Baba Land poster. But instead of Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone on the poster, we had two very good looking and sexy sheep canoodling on the poster. And we build it, instead
Clever.
of the most exciting, thrilling movie ever made, we build it as the dullest movie ever made. We said on the
Hmm.
poster, the dullest ever movie ever made. We hope so, or we think so. We hope you do too. And we build
That's
it as the
great.
ultimate cure for insomnia. And everyone in every country in the world understood what sheep were. Everyone understood sheep were kind of led
Counting
unexciting
sheep.
lives. They didn't have thrilling. It wasn't action packed lives. So that was
And then
understood.
also too, Peter, when they tell you want to go to sleep, you count sheep. So
Yes,
counting sheep is
exactly.
one of
So that
the
was a
things.
kind of bridge
Yeah.
the gap, not just between the UK and the US, but it really was understood around the world.
Yes.
Another idea I did quite a few years ago, long before I worked for Calm, I was working for a website that published multimedia ebooks with embedded video.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
when I started working for them, they were doing very much the traditional, conventional sort of PR. And they would put out a press release saying, hold the front page, big news, we've just released
Mhm.
version 8.9.6.3 of our software. We're so excited. And they couldn't understand why nobody was ever giving them
Picking it up.
coverage. And I said, well, instead of telling people about your new software, which might not interest them as much as it interests you, why not actually show them what you do? Give an example of what you do. And what you do is you publish multimedia ebooks. So let's find a quirky, unusual example of an ebook that you could publish. So not long before that, I've been reading about a man in Serbia in Europe where the national delicacy, the national dish, as in quite a few countries, is testicles. So he was one of Serbia's leading testicle chefs. So we
Okay.
commissioned him to write, and we then published on the site the world's first testicle cookbook. And
That's a head turner.
it was called the Testicle Cookbook, uh, and the subtitle was Cooking with Balls, and it had
Oh,
35 recipes for um, different dishes involving testicles, everything from testicle pizza to testicle omelets to bull's testicles with bechamel sauce. And again, that bridged any cultural or humor gap, not just between the UK and the US, but that was understood in every country, everyone in every country in the world, in the space of 2 words, understood that idea, the
I
testicle.
like, yeah,
They,
I like the fact that,
and
like it says, cooking
everyone
with
thought
balls.
it was funny. I think men and women enjoyed it in different ways and for different reasons. There was actually a feminist group in California, a women's group, who used it to stage what they called the first ever feminist Thanksgiving dinner, with every course consisted of a recipe from the testicle book.
So
So
that is pretty out of the box.
the
That is
best
pretty,
the best
that is
ideas
pretty,
will bridge any cultural gap and will be understood universally. I often think, even though we're living in the age of AI and amazingly rapid change, I often think that the test of a good idea, idea that stands any chance of going viral, is whether a Neanderthal man or woman would have understood it and enjoyed it. So
mhm.
if it passes the Neanderthal test, that's usually a good sign. I mean, the best ideas are incredibly simple and in some
Yeah,
ways incredibly basic and primitive. So if you scrape away all the amazing high tech, the old fashioned principles, technology changes and media changes, but human nature doesn't change as much as
it
we
doesn't.
as
I like when we have the Super Bowl in the United States, and so our commercials are in between, and they're usually the ones that go viral, the ones that we love the most, either pull at the heartstrings, they just
yes,
go, "Ah," or the ones that really just make you laugh.
yes,
And I just remember, some of the commercials are so funny, and they spend so much money to make sure that these
yes,
commercials get in front of people so that they're spending millions of dollars for a 30-second commercial on the Super Bowl, but you can have the same impact by really going viral on TikTok or Twitter or Facebook or whatever.
definitely.
So what is the Peter, in terms of viral, what are some numbers, I guess you would say, that you saw? You were talked about, something went viral in Bulgaria and Vietnam and that sort of thing. What kind of numbers are you amassing on, I guess you say, virality of things on social media versus like the Super Bowl? Because it's almost like they compete against each other, but they kind of can piggyback on each other as well. But give us some difference
Yeah.
in like maybe the numbers.
Well, just going back to what you said about the Super Bowl, I totally agree with you. Yeah, the things that go viral are the things that are emotional, that trigger
Mhm.
emotions, like laughter or love or affection, or often things that go viral on some
Mhm.
social media are things that trigger anger or hatred. But I think also the Super Bowl commercials sort of belong to another bygone age, the pre-internet age, where the brand with the biggest checkbook or the biggest bank balance could get the most attention. But in the modern age, that's no longer the case. It's the brand with the best idea. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at things that go viral on TikTok or Instagram or social media, generally it's often something created by somebody in their bedroom with, for actually zero budget or enough budget to buy a microphone and a camera or something. So yeah,
Mhm.
nowadays, yeah, you don't need $1 million. You don't need $10 million that a lot of people, or 7 or 8 or 9 million dollars that a lot of brands spend on their Super Bowl commercials. You need a good idea, and you also need not just one idea. You need idea after idea, because a lot of it is about a batting average. You can't really guarantee that any one idea is going to go viral, but you
Mhm.
have to keep trying and aim for good batting average. And the longer you do it, then the hope is the better your batting average becomes, because the more you learn from your successes and your failures.
We're talking with Peter Freedman, who is the author of the book, How Calm Whipped Up a Storm: How One Small App Won a Ton of PR and Buzz That Helped It Grow Big, and How You Can Too. And it's on Amazon. I want to read a little short bit, Peter, because I didn't read it when we first started. But this short book is for anyone who runs or markets an app or other startups, scale up or challenge brand, and who wants to generate a ton of buzz, coverage, and attention, but without having a ton of money to do so. With over 1.5 million new apps launched every year, I had no idea, and
Staggering.
over 4,000 a day, it's never been harder to win attention by standing out in a noisy world, and never have been more crucial to do so. This book is at least two things: part case study, which he did with Calm, and part how to guide. It's a case study of how one small app went away to then its fair share of buzz and attention by creative PR, and then guerrilla and viral marketing that helped it grow big. And it's also a guide of how you too can do the following by Calm's example, by applying Peter's 10 golden rules of PR and guerrilla marketing. And I want you to kind of give us, you can't give us all 10, they got to get the book, but give us a couple of those kind of golden rules of that you share in the book.
Yes, one of the golden rules I share was something that somebody else actually said to me, but it struck me as containing a lot of truth. Some years ago, I was asked to get attention for Lulu.com, a self-publishing website based
Mhm.
in North Carolina. I was living in the UK, so I needed somebody on the ground in the US to do the media relations and pitching, which is how I tend to work. I kind of tend to work with somebody there. So somebody recommended a talented PR woman in New York, and I had a call with her. And she said to me at one point, she said, "Oh, a self-publishing website." She said, "That will be very difficult." to get attention for. She said, only two things nowadays get attention. One of them is celebrities, and the other one is weird. And I
Weird.
remember she used the word weird because, on the one hand, it was sort of ungrammatical, but on the other hand, I knew exactly what she meant, and it seemed really fitting and right. And I also had a kind of light bulb moment, and I realized that what I did for a living was weird, was what she called weird. I tend to think of it as creative or quirky or
Quirky.
offbeat or
Mhm.
guerrilla. Yeah, I like the word quirky, but I knew exactly what she meant. But then, and I thought there was an awful lot of truth. I mean, there are other things that get attention. There's kind of conflict and there's sex and there's other things. But if I had to choose just two things, I think it would be the two things she said, celebrities and weird. But
And
then, well,
celebrities can be quirky and sexy, so
yeah,
that could be within.
then I had another light bulb moment a year or two later when I realized there is a third thing that is even better or more valuable or more effective at getting attention, is combining celebrities and weird at the same time. If you can get both of them together, that's even better. Like an example of something, an idea we did for Calm, that Calm was approached by American Express when John McEnroe was one of their brand ambassadors.
Mhm.
And it was coming up to the approach of Wimbledon, which, despite the US Open being on at the moment, we think of as the biggest tennis tournament in the world. And so we wanted to do something with John McEnroe in the approach to Wimbledon. And one of the most popular content strands on Calm was what were and still are called sleep stories, which were bedtime stories for grown-ups. So we could have got John McEnroe. So John McEnroe was obviously a big celebrity. We had the topical hook of Wimbledon approaching, and we could have got him just to read a nice bedtime story like The Tale of Peter Rabbit or Alice in Wonderland or Sleeping Beauty or whatever. So that would have been just a celebrity, but instead we combined celebrities and weird. And what we did was what John McEnroe was best known for, at least early in his career. I mean, more recently he's become an elder statesperson of the game, but he was known as the bad boy of tennis, who
Always angry.
always getting angry and breaking the rules and shouting at umpires. So we got him to read, as a bedtime story, we got him to read out the rules of tennis to which was kind of unconventional, unexpected bedtime story. So, but it was really a combination of celebrities plus weird instead of just celebrities. Or going back a few years, an idea I wasn't involved, I had no involvement at all, but I remember got a lot of attention was when Gwyneth Paltrow at Goop, she was launching a new candle, and she could have just launched a new candle that smelled like spring flowers or something, which would have been kind of interesting because she's a big celebrity. But instead, she launched a new candle and it was called This Candle Smells Like My Vagina. And I don't know if you remember that, but that got huge because it's really a seriously weird
Yeah, that was weird.
thing. But so the combination of celebrity plus weird was much more effective than just celebrity on its own. So
I think people, adults, are really just big kids. So it just reminds you everything that you ever needed to know, you learned in kindergarten or you learned, on the playground, because whatever will get the attention at that age really
yes.
still gets attention today. So the
Oh,
weird, the
I agree with you.
crazy, the quirky. And I think as we get older, I think sometimes we overthink it, Peter, and people don't really they have too much, I can say too much education or too much thought into it, where they don't really realize what is the emotional strings that really get people to move or to pay attention, to get them to desire it and to want it and to take action. And I really like the fact that, you do say that it is the funny things. And I think people who are in advertising or people who are in marketing or people who are in PR, they need to have a sense of humor. Or even, for me, one of my favorite things to do and to relax is always to watch stand-up comics. I think they are genius at
Yes.
what they do. And so when it's not just timing, but it's also how they think, how a comic thinks, and really turns things a different way. And so I think anyone who's in the communication field or anyone who wants to know about marketing more, I think it would be good to study comedy, not from the standpoint that you want to be a comic, but just to understand the human emotion of humor. And people put things on TikTok, crazy cats, or all the things that have to do with animals, right? What their dog is doing. We always laugh at them. We're scrolling for hours looking at these things, but it's like, well, why are these things really racking up so many views? It's because it's entertaining. People
Sure.
spend so much time and money wanting to be entertained. And so our advertising, our marketing, our PR needs to be entertaining. Even when we're trying to get the attention of a journalist, the subject line needs to be a little quirky, needs
Yeah.
to needs to have a little bit of a bite to it. It can't just say press release and close. I mean, really. So we need to have some things that really. So will the book help a person really think out of the box with that in terms of subject lines and different ways to market and pitch? What are some of the things that you think is the main takeaway that an average startup or business will learn from this book?
Well, I think what you say about us all being children underneath, I think there's a lot of truth in that. And in a way, that's a different way of saying us all being Neanderthal people underneath. It's, we're more simple and basic than we maybe sometimes delude ourselves. And I often think that even the most highbrow papers, the New York Times and the Washington Post or whatever it is, are beneath the surface. A lot of their values are very similar to the New York Post or the most basic tabloids. And also, I totally agree with you of what you say about subject lines. They're obviously crucial because the average journalist is getting literally hundreds of email pitches a day, and
Hundreds.
a newsroom or news editor in a big media outlet is likely to be getting thousands of them. So the email subject line, and obviously because of that, they're not even going to open most of the emails they get. So yeah, I mean, going back to the testicle cookbook, one of the email subject lines that I was pleased coming up with at the time, I remember we pitched that by saying testicle pizza question mark, we have the recipe. And so
Oh my
so
God.
yeah, that was very effective in getting people to open it and cover it. And I remember also that the Sun newspaper, one of the biggest tabloids in the UK, they picked it up and they wrote a story saying, "Warning: This book may contain nuts." And so they
I love
continued
that.
the
I love
spirit of it. But yeah, the subject line is absolutely crucial, and making people smile and laugh is crucial. I mean, the things that go viral on TikTok and Instagram nowadays, a very high proportion of them are things that entertain and delight people in one way or another, that
that.
make them laugh. So yeah,
What's
and I totally agree that everyone should study stand-up comics and comedy
Yes,
in
they do.
general,
They
because
really
a good PR or guerrilla marketing stunt is often a form of joke, a form of stage joke. So there's a lot in common. They share a lot of the same techniques and underlying principles as a good joke. So yes, I think that's a very good point.
What is the best not email, the best website for people to contact you?
My email
Not
is
email, I'm sorry, website.
my website is well, they can find me on LinkedIn if they look up Peter Freedman
I love
and
LinkedIn.
guerrilla marketing, or Peter Freedman, and my company's called Think Inc. THINK and then INC. So they
Mhm.
can find me on LinkedIn, and people are welcome to connect. Or my
Think
website
mhm.
is think THINK hyphen INC for Charlie.co.uk.
Okay.
So,
.co.uk.
and
That's a
with a
little bit
hyphen.
different. Okay. All right. So we got to make sure that that's the one that we go to right here. Is that it?
Right, yeah. So
Okay.
there's a hyphen in the middle.
.co.uk. That's it. That's it. Because I want people to really connect with you there. Think, because you're really thinking, just trying to get these ideas fresh and going. That is it. Because even like if we have a client that we're going to do marketing for, when we pitch them to get them to be a client, it's got to be out of the box. And I
Yeah,
have remembered so many times, especially at one point, I've done things with McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts and things like that, that that we had to come up with fresh ideas. So it just can't be like, oh, okay, here's the budget. This is what we're going to do. It had to stand out. And so that is one of the things that we don't take for granted, that people who are in these marketing PR streets, that we not only do we have to pitch and do all the sales, but we also have to be creative in terms of doing that in order to get the client. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure. So the things that we've got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything that you'd like to add? Like, we talked a lot about what makes an idea go viral, but I want to make sure that people actually get the book as well.
Yeah, I think when people read the book, or even sometimes when I give interviews, the thing they enjoy most is when I give case studies and examples. That's what they tend to remember. And sometimes when I'm talking in abstract terms, they kind of doze off and look bored. But then if you tell them stories, then that is helpful. So yeah, another idea I did for Calm just in time for Christmas of last year was I mentioned that one of the most popular content strands on Calm are bedtime stories for grown-ups, and one of the most popular Christmas movies of all time, if not the single most popular, is It's a Wonderful Life. So with the coming of AI, and last year being the year of AI, what we did was we approached the family and the estate of Jimmy Stewart. James Stewart, the star of It's a Wonderful Life, and we got their permission to use AI to clone his voice. And we wrote a new sleep story, which was in the spirit of It's a Wonderful Life, but without being too close to it, called It's a Wonderful Sleep Story. And we got the cloned voice of Jimmy Stewart to narrate it. And that really went viral. Again, a surprising number of countries around the world. But I think the underlying principle of all these ideas is basically that creativity gets you more for your money.
Yes.
And you can punch above your weight and achieve more than your competitors by really coming up with quirky, creative ideas, and to keep doing it, coming up with idea after idea.
I love that. I love that. Well, Peter Freedman, thank you so much for joining us today. I love the energy that you bring around the whole space of getting out there, getting known. That is so key. And I want people to understand that if you think it's a crazy idea, go for it. What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly.
You're going to get the attention. Now you've got to go through the other parts, the interest, the desire, and the action to get them to buy, because it's all about the marketing part, but you've got to get the attention first. So thank you so much for joining us today on Get Out There, Get Known podcast, and on Amazon Live as well. So they can actually click the link and actually buy the book too as well.
Great. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you so much. So that is the Pam Perry's pick of the week. Oh my goodness. If you all don't have that book, make sure that you do pick it up. It's on Amazon, so make sure that you get it. And I want to play my theme song. It is the Pam Perry pick song. I just love this song. Bobby Ivory did this song for me. And then with that, I'll talk to you later. God bless.
Hey yo, kick back, relax, let's dive in the page. Pam Perry picks got the books for your brain. From fiction to non-fiction, all genres insane. We coming through showing love to the lit game. Greatest stories ever told, gotta find your pick. Imagination running wild, ain't nothing slick. Get lost in the pages, let your mind drift. Pam Perry picks got your brain in the bookshelf vibe. Turning the pages with pride. Pam Perry picks got the words by your side. Bookshelf vibe. Turning pages with pride. Pam Perry picks got the words by your side. From the classics to new, we got the books for you. Get your mind right, let the knowledge accrue. Bookshelf vibe, expanding horizons wide. Pam Perry kicks, keeping readers satisfied. Books up high, knowledge we can't deny. Get your reading on, book one fly. Click cover image.
Get your reading on. All righty. I'm Pam Perry. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this podcast. Take care. We'll see you next week.